Hey Windowers, and welcome to another episode of Windows on Windows, part of the series on the development of Windows 98. In this episode we'll be taking a look at Windows Codename Memphis build 1400, a beta 1 build compiled on the 24th of February 1997. This build introduced a wealth of new features to the Windows experience, including the active desktop, the first instance of integrated Windows updates into the operating system, and a feature that wouldn't make its way into an officially released version of Windows for around another decade, first appearing officially in Windows 7. So, with all that said, let's take a look and let's start. So here we are at the desktop of Windows Codename Memphis build 1400. Now before we look at the user interface changes here, I just want to refer back to the setup procedure that I showed you at the beginning of the video. So there are a few changes in setup, mainly some changes to the colour theme, so everything's a lot less teal and it's now more grey. The sidebar is now a slightly different shade of grey, as are the background images. Also in the sidebar we now have the addition of the countdown timer to show how much time approximately is left in the setup process, which did make its way into the final release of 98. And also in the bottom left hand corner we have a checkbox labelled Enable Sound. Now I'm quite intrigued about this and I'm not really sure what the function of this is meant to be. I can't quite understand why you'd need sound in the setup, so if you know anything more about this, please let me know in the comments below. And a final change in setup is, during the last stage, there is now no longer a requirement for a final reboot. So there is one fewer reboots than before this point, which is always a good thing. Now coming back to the desktop, and this is quite exciting actually, so this build actually debuts, as far as I know, quite a few changes to the user experience. So the first one that you may have noticed is that in the bottom right hand corner next to the clock, we now have a show desktop button. Now this is fascinating to me because this feature actually didn't make its way into the final release of 98, and actually it wasn't seen in a released version of Windows until Windows 7, which is about 10 years after this. So I think that's amazing that it actually seems to have come from this build of 98. So I mean, obviously I know that you're going to know how it's going to work, but let's just demonstrate it. So if you press the button, it hides your windows. So when it's pressed, if you look at the button, you'll notice that it's actually stuck in to show that you have pressed it, and you can actually just press it and leave it in this condition and all your windows will minimize, and then you can press it again to bring it back to normal condition with all your windows back. Now also pay attention, in the taskbar, minimized or inactive windows now don't have any border around their taskbar buttons. So as you can see, this is just all flat until you hover over the button, and then you can obviously press it and it comes back to the normal Windows 95 look. So that's also a new feature there. Now if you right click on the show desktop button, you get a couple of options. So you've got desktop, which does what the primary functionality is anyway when you left click the button, and the other option is properties, which is a handy shortcut to the display properties dialog box, which isn't in Windows 7 implementation of this feature, but I think that is actually a really good idea. I really like that. Now, I know I've got the display properties dialog box up here, but I'll actually come back to that. I just want to talk about a few more changes that are in the taskbar and start menu. So another change is, if you right click on an Explorer icon in the taskbar, you now have these shortcuts to getting rid of the status bar and the toolbar in Explorer windows. So you can do that right from the taskbar here. And then if you go to the start menu, you now have a new banner on the left hand side, IE4 preview release, and it's kind of glitched out there, but we will ignore that for now. And a final feature in the taskbar that you also may have noticed is we now have a new icon in the system tray, and it's labelled subscriptions, and if you double click on this you get this window. So this looks like, I mean, I'm not sure exactly, it looks kind of like an RSS feed sort of thing. It's got an example one here, so if you have a look at the properties for this, it says Smart Favorites can automatically notify you when a website has changed since you last visited. Now I'm not sure exactly how this is meant to work and how it kind of integrates with the shell. I don't know where you'd find this information that's updating, or whether it's just literally a notification and then you'd have to just check the website manually. I'm not really sure how it works. So again, if you have any information about this, please do let me know. But I've never seen a feature like this in Windows. It definitely wasn't in the final release of Windows 98. So we can view all subscriptions, update subscriptions now, and then global subscription properties. This is interesting. Look at this title bar. It's smaller than usual. That's kind of weird. So this is the same information as before, so when a favourite is updated, its icon displays a small red gleam showing you that there is new content. You can access your most recently updated subscription content by displaying an icon in the taskbar. Show notification icon on the taskbar. Okay, so this is kind of answering the questions that I was asking. So when updating subscriptions, would you like to have your machine automatically dial up and connect to the internet without user intervention? Daily schedule, how would you like to schedule your daily updates? And weekly. Yeah, so okay, I guess this icon would change to show you updated information, and then you'd come to this page and, I don't know, double click. Yeah, there you go. I answered all my questions, so it looks like you double click. Now let's come back to display properties, which is always my favourite part. I will not break with tradition, and I will set a wallpaper. So let's see, what do we feel like today? Let's do straw mat, and then let's go to appearance and choose a colour scheme. What would match this? Maple. Something looks odd about this theme. I swear these are not the normal colours. Have I got this on the right colour depth? Yeah, 32-bit. Something's up with this. This is not... I'm sure this has got red in it. What's up with that? Anyway, coming back to the background tab, there's no changes here from Windows 95 as far as I can tell. Same with the screensavers. These are just all the normal screensavers. I was gonna say same in appearance in terms of the themes, but now that I've seen this maple theme, that's kind of confused me. So let's just... I tell you what it is. It's the inactive title bar color. It's black. It's black on all these themes. That is a bit weird. Well, anyway, that actually leads on to the next thing I was going to talk about, handily enough. So in Windows 95, your active title bar color, you could only set one color, so it would have looked like this, where you've just got the same color across the whole title bar. But now you can actually change that and have a gradient effect. That is the same with the inactive title bar colors, which is why this theme looks weird to me, because it's got black set, which is not normally there. So you can now introduce these gradients in your title bars, and these were introduced actually in build 13.8.7 it appears, but they are obviously present in this later build as well. So coming out of display properties, and another quite major change in this build is now we have a reintegration of Internet Explorer into the shell. So this actually debuted in build 999, which was Nashville. There are a few differences here to how it was implemented in Nashville. So the first thing that you may notice is that these buttons are actually larger than they were in Nashville and Windows 95. There is also actually a texture in the background. Notice that the same sort of texture is also on the folder background as well. Yet another new feature. Some of the new features that come with this desktop internet integration are the back and forward buttons, the ability to save directories in a favorites list, so all the same features as Nashville really. And a related feature to that, and again as far as I know introduced in this build, is Active Desktop. Now the Active Desktop, for those of you that don't know because it's no longer in Windows, is a way to display web pages on your desktop, a bit like Gadgets, or you could, if you wanted to, display a web page as a whole image, kind of like image again in inverted commas, as your background. You'll see we have this new desktop tab in display properties, so you can see here you've got a few options. So you've got show these objects on my desktop background, and it's got an example here, although I'm not quite sure how you set this since there are no options. But anyway, so the idea is that you can have these web pages as desktop backgrounds. Now this was in Windows 98, it did stick around until I think around Windows XP, I think that's right. Okay, now in a normal video, that's probably the amount of features that you would expect in a typical build, even more maybe than typical, but no, we're still not finished yet with build 1400. So the next thing that, again, as far as I'm aware, debuts in this build is, and this is a big one guys, this is the first instance of Windows Update being integrated into Windows. So here we go, Internet System Update on the desktop. So if you click this, it actually opens Internet Explorer and it's taking you to this link, so winbeta.microsoft.com, etc. So obviously that's not going to work, but you can see this is the foundations here of Windows Update. So in Windows 98, when this feature was introduced for the first time in an official release, this is how Windows Update worked. So you had to go to the Windows Update webpage and manually download your updates from there. It was only later on that it became a lot more automated, but again, fascinating that feature debuts in this build. Now if we come to Control Panel, we've got just a couple of changes here. So firstly, the power option has now been renamed Power-APM, standing for Acoustic Power Management. It enables you to set a time where you can have your hard drive, for example, go into low power mode. And the other option that's new is Still Image, which is a place where you can add, remove and look at properties for imaging devices such as scanners that are installed. And then finally, and really I guess I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but there is a slight change to the boot screen. So it now says Beta 1 or Beta 1 on the boot screen, and that signifies that of course this is in the Beta 1 branch of builds. So that's it guys. Let me know as usual in the comments below if you have any questions or any comments that you want to add about any features that I've maybe missed or not explained very well. Anything that I've got wrong, please feel free to correct me. I hope you enjoyed the video and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.